Okay, so coming to you from the great beyond once again. So we're going to talk about how they're going to solve this issue of representation in Congress in the Constitutional Convention. So Shays' Rebellion showed us that the Articles of Confederation don't work. They're terrible. Nothing's going well. The economy's in shambles. The states can't keep control of everything. So we got to fix everything. So we have this Constitutional Convention, right? We got 55 delegates attend the convention. Rhode Island doesn't send anyone. Rhode Island's like that. George Washington shows up. He's elected president at the convention. Originally, George Washington is like, no, man, I'm not going. I'm not going to come. This is your deal. I already won the revolution for you. And James Madison writes him a series of letters and is like, well, I mean, do you like the Constitution? Do you like the Articles? And Washington's like, no, they're terrible. They suck. And Madison basically says, well, everyone loves you and you are like the father of the country. And if you don't show up, everyone's going to think you hate the new Constitution. It'll fail. So, you can have the entire failure of the country on your shoulders, or you can come to the convention. And so he's like, fine, I'll come. And then he shows up and it turns out that they're like, by the way, you should be president of the convention. So, they sucked him back in. James Madison is the hero of the Constitutional Convention. He is a tiny little pint-sized founding father. He's like 5'1" or something. You can Google it. He's a very small little man. He is appointed to be the secretary of the convention. He has just hit his prime here. Madison was too young to be at the first and second Continental Congresses, but he's there now. He is appointed secretary of the convention, which means he takes the notes, and he takes 493 pages of notes in a little notebook. So for those of you who complain because we asked you to write a paragraph, just remember, James Madison took 493 pages of notes. Most of what we know about the Constitutional Convention and the issues that faced the convention, we know because Madison wrote these notes. So we have a full-fledged document of the debates at the convention. Madison comes so prepared to the convention, he becomes known as the father of the Constitution because most of our Constitution was framed. Madison spent the years leading up to the convention basically studying every democracy in the history of the world and said, look, I've looked at them all. I know the good, the bad, the ugly. I've got a perfect plan for us. TJ, my boy, and John Adams does not show up at the Constitutional Convention because they are actually the U.S. ambassadors to England and France, respectively, during the convention, so they aren't there at all. So we don't have any information about what Jefferson or Adams thought at the convention because they're hanging out overseas. So when we talk about the convention and the issues they have, it's important to remember that all the delegates of the convention had two key common beliefs. First, they all agree in the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence is like the statement of belief for the country, right? That the job of the government should be protect the rights of the citizens. That is what they believe the government should do. Nobody is questioning the Declaration. Nobody ever has questioned the Declaration. Oops, went too far, right? But the question is how they get there, right? It's like when my husband and I go someplace and we're driving down the street and we think we're going to a restaurant. And I'm like, really? You're turning that direction? That seems weird to me. We agree we're going to dinner at the Winking Lizard. We just don't agree about what the right way to get there is. The other thing they all agree on is that the new government should be a republic. Nobody's suggesting direct democracy. No one's sitting around saying all of these people should sit together and should vote on every law that happens. So they all know they want some kind of representative democracy, otherwise known as a republic. But they're going to differ on some key issues, right? The first key issue is how much power should the government have? Delegates who favor weaker national governments and stronger state governments believe that the state government should protect its citizens from the abuse of power by the federal government. They see the state government as a bodyguard that is in between the people and the national government, right? And so if the national government tries to abuse the power, the state governments are able to step in and be like, no, don't do that. We're being there. We're protecting the states. delegates for a stronger national government said, we got to give the national government more power. Look at the chaos that ensues because we don't have a national government that can control anything. The other big difference is how we are going to represent each state. Some delegates believe that Congress should represent each state as a whole. This is a confederacy, right? That we have the people here, right? Here are my little people, and that the people give their power to the state government, and then the state government gives its power to the people. And to be honest with you, I can't get my arrows to work right now, and I need a mouse, and I don't have one at home. So there should be an arrow then also going this way. That then the state government can make laws that the national government makes a law that affects the states, and that the state government makes laws for the people, right? But that it's a hierarchy. People to state, state to national. People who believe that the national government should be representing the states don't see a direct connection between the individual citizens and the national government. That I am a citizen of Ohio, and Ohio is part of the United States of America, right? But I don't have a direct relationship. That there is no direct relationship between the people of the states and the government of the United States. Okay? This is a confederation. I mentioned briefly at some point, this is very much how, for those of you who are familiar with European politics, the European Union is set up, right? Citizens in Europe are citizens of France or of Germany or of Spain, and France and Germany and Spain have a relationship with the European Union. But individual citizens of France don't have a direct relationship with the European Union. Same thing here, right? So some people believe that it should go people to state, state to national, and that national and people are not directly connected. Madison disagrees. Madison says, no. That's not how this works, right? That the citizens of the United States have a direct relationship with the state government and a direct relationship with the national government. That I have a relationship, I elect citizens, I elect representatives for the state government, and the state government makes laws for me. But I also have a direct relationship with the national government, and therefore the national government can make laws for me, right? That sort of going off of John Locke's idea, I have a social contract with both groups. I have a social contract with the state government, and I have a social contract with the United States government at the same time. That I am both a citizen of the United States, and I'm a citizen of the state of Ohio simultaneously and equally, right? That these two people are the same. And therefore, the national government can make laws that affect me directly, and the state government can make laws that affect me directly. So this is really the fight. Who gets represented? Are we representing states, or are we representing the national government? Are we representing states, or are we representing citizens? Right? Who is getting represented? Is this national government representing individual states? Here, so it's people to state, state to nation, or is it going to represent citizens directly? So Madison says we should go with this plan, citizens directly. And so his first plan is the Virginia plan. It's referred to as the Virginia plan because Madison is from Virginia. It also gets known as the large state plan because Virginia is the largest state in the Union. And this plan will look somewhat familiar to you. Right? It has 3 branches of government, a legislative, executive, and judicial branch. The executive branch would be headed by the president. Right? So 3 branches, legislative, executive, and judicial. Right? And that's different than the Articles of Confederation because the Articles only had a legislature. And he says, and that legislature is going to be divided into a 2-house legislature. So it'll be 2 houses, what we call bicameral. Right? A bicameral legislature has 2 houses, just like a bicycle has 2 wheels. And those houses will be based on proportional representation. Right? Shout out to my math teachers. So the more people you have, the more representatives you have. So for instance, and we're making these numbers up because you know how I like to make math numbers up. the more people you have, the more representatives you have. So if you had one representative for every 10,000 people, if you had 20,000 people in your state, you'd have 2 representatives. And if you had 5,000 people or 50,000 people in your state, you'd have 5 representatives. Large states like this plan because they'll have more representatives. And this is a Madison plan because we're representing individual citizens equally in each plan. Now, the next one here is called the New Jersey plan. So our smaller states look at the Virginia plan and they freak out because they say, well, gosh, we're going to get way outvoted. And Madison's reaction to that is, you're not going to get outvoted. We're just representing every citizen equally in the state. Each state will be represented, each citizen will be represented equally. And they said, well, we don't want to represent the citizens equally. We want to represent the states equally. So smaller states come up with a small state plan, representatives from New Jersey. It's called the New Jersey plan, and it's called the small state plan. Okay? They keep the 3 branches of government, legislative, executive, and judicial. But instead of a 2-house legislature, they have a unicameral legislature. Just like a bicycle with 2 wheels is called a bicycle. A legislature with 1 house is called a unicameral legislature, because a cycle that has 1 wheel is called a unicycle. And they say that they're going to have equal representation in each, right? That they're going to have equal representation regardless of population. Regardless of population. Right? And it favors the small states because every state would have equal power. So if we look at our little graph here, we can kind of see how this works out. If I have Virginia with a population of 60,000 and New Jersey with a population of 10,000, right? If I have 1 representative per state under a New Jersey plan, right? Each state gets 1 representative, and that means that every person has 1 representative per 60,000 people in Virginia. In New Jersey, though, I have 1 representative per 10,000 people. And what that effectively means is Madison's argument against this plan is that if I'm a citizen of Virginia, my vote is 1/6 of the power of a vote of someone in New Jersey. Right? I'm 1/10,000th of a vote in New Jersey, and I'm 1/60,000th of a vote in Virginia. That as an individual citizen, I have much less power if each state has equal representation. Now, my states are equal, right? So if we're just representing the state, New Jersey has the same representation as Virginia, right? And those people who argue that you're representing the state say, yeah, but you're representing the state. The state of New Jersey is equal to the state of Virginia. And Madison says, no, we're representing the individual people. So under the Virginia plan, Madison says, if you got 60,000 people and 1 representative for every state, then I have 6 representatives for the state of Virginia and 1 representative for the state of New Jersey. Now, per person, then, under the Virginia plan, individual citizens are represented equally. It's 1 per 10,000 people in Virginia and 1 per 10,000 people in New Jersey. So here, they're equal. Okay? So the New Jersey plan is representing your states equally, and your Virginia plan is representing your citizens equally. And that is the fight, and that's what they can't get past, because small states can't stop seeing this number here, right? That they're just going to get outvoted every time if we do it per person. They're like, we're going to get screwed every time, hands down. And so now we have Roger Sherman of Connecticut. They fight and they fight and they fight and they fight, and they finally get this agreement together. And this final agreement is the Great Compromise. Right? Roger Sherman from Connecticut shows up and he goes, I have an idea. Let's put the 2 plans together. So this Great Compromise that we finally address has 3 branches of government: a legislative, an executive, and a judicial. That's from both, right? It has a bicameral legislature. In the first house, the Senate, every state has 2 senators regardless of the population. So New Jersey has 2, a small state, and Virginia has 2, a large state. In Pennsylvania, a larger state has 2. In New Jersey and New York, a larger state has 2. Georgia, a smaller state, has 2. Everybody's got 2, regardless of size. And this is going to represent every state equally. And then to satisfy the larger states, or those people who want to represent individuals, we have the House of Representatives, which has proportional representation, which means the larger states have more representatives. So that's where you get your 1 representative for every 10,000 people, so that the bigger the state, the larger the representatives. So we have 2 houses of Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives. One, the Senate, equal representation based on population. The other, the House of Representatives, proportional representation, right? The more representatives you have, the more people you have, the more representatives you have. So every state has 2. Bigger states have more representatives. And this is the one that gets approved because everybody gets what they want. And when they establish it, any law has to pass both the House and the Senate in order to get approval.